Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This webinar is being recorded, so you guys can go back and listen to it later if you'd like, or share it with some of your colleagues. For those of you that I haven't met, my name's Dr. Stephen Moore. I live down here in Jupiter, Florida. And Dr. David Rosenberg, who practices down here in Jupiter, Florida, is going to be joining us as well. And really the purpose of this call is to go over a lot more about the science of the biophotonic scanner and talk a little bit more about how this gets integrated into practice as well. So I do a lot of these talks in different parts of the country in front of audiences of several hundred people sometimes. And I always ask physicians really these three questions. And number one is, are we satisfied with preventative health care? Are we satisfied with reimbursements and where they're going? And are we satisfied with lifestyle? And very rarely do I get yeses on any of these. Most of the time, no one's hand goes up. And I'm going to assume that that's probably the case with many of you here. I know that that's probably maybe one of the reasons that you might be on this webinar here tonight, is to learn about ways to make some improvements in your practice. I know that we also have some medical distributors and reps and so forth that are also looking for ways to help the physicians that they have great relationships with too. So our agenda tonight is really address a scientific approach to nutrition and prevention, discuss the science of antioxidants and some very exciting research on epigenetics, the science of the biophotonic scanner, which is the world's first and only device to measure antioxidants and oxidative stress non-invasively in the body. Really what makes PHARMANEX a unique company that's trusted by many physicians around the world. And then how does this all wrap up to create cash flow in a practice? And then what we'll do is we'll kind of, that'll be section one of the webinar. And then for those of you that want to stay on with us for, what I always like to call extra credit, we can dive a little bit more into the science for some of you that are a little bit geeky like me and Dr. Rosenberg. So let me introduce ourselves. This is our headquarters with PHARMANEX. So it's one of the world's largest research and development engines in the industry for anti-aging and so forth. These are some of our labs. This was actually designed by some of the architects of Apple. It was a $100+ million expansion of our headquarters. Over here, you can see kind of our original building, and then this was a massive expansion that we did. And this research facility housed, in addition to several other facilities that we have around the world, houses 100 full-time scientists. Nearly half of them are PhDs. So we've got a pretty good size footprint right now, and now with all the trends that are taking place in healthcare, there's obviously a huge need for physicians to integrate some of these programs to help meet the needs of their patients and meet the needs of their practice. And one example of this is this was just in March of this year, so just a couple months ago. An insurer actually ran some issues with their ACA. They did a $221 million loss on their healthcare plans. They were anticipating $500 million in losses in 2015 because more enrollees basically applied or enrolled in their plans than they were expected, and they ended up paying out more in premiums than they were expected. And the response to that, for their mistake that they made, was, well, who's going to pay the price? It's going to be the physicians. So as of April 1st, they cut physician reimbursements by 4.5%. So they expect other ACAs to follow suit, and we've got just some major problems that are taking place in healthcare, and there's more of a need to bring in ancillary revenue streams than ever into a medical practice, because we can no longer rely on Medicare and Medicaid and insurance companies to really dictate how we're getting paid. So that's one of the big problems that we're going to address here and how to solve that. The other big problem we have is really health in America. And I recently updated this slide from 10 years ago, and the updates on every single one of these diseases here, they didn't get better, they got worse. So, cancer, 1,600 people a day die from cancer. Heart disease, nearly 2,000 people a day are dying from that. Major costs associated with it. 86 million people have pre-diabetes. Nearly 2/3 of us are overweight. 52 million people in America have low bone mass, and actually over 100,000 people die every year from properly prescribed medications. So two of the biggest problems are cancer and heart disease, and all this money that we're spending is not actually changing the rates that much. And the sad thing is that medical intervention is actually now, as of just a few weeks ago, based off the latest study, is now the third leading cause of death. So the integrations that we're supposed to be doing to make the difference there's a lot of pieces that are missing in medicine. And the reason, I believe, is because we're not focused on prevention. We're dealing with disease way too late in the process. And if we could steer people to a better path of health much earlier on in the process, and we'll have a much healthier America here. And so when you look at that, Albert Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And for some reason, that seems to be what a lot of us have been doing in medicine and pharmaceuticals. And I really believe that we need a different approach. I'm a big believer that whatever we focus on expands. And if we focus on disease, we're just going to see lots of disease. And if we could focus more on health and optimizing health, then we'll see a lot more health in your practices and health around the United States, which we've already been seeing in many providers' practices that have integrated the programs that we're talking about. Patients are healthier, the practices are healthier, and the physicians are definitely happier. So let's talk about one of the root causes of disease, and it's this free radical problem, which causes oxidation and in the body. Inflammation is also a contributor to it, and essentially free radicals are what are damaging our cells and our DNA. They're bad. They're really the root cause of disease. And antioxidants are the cellular protection that we have in every cell in our body. And so there's this war going on every single day, and it's all a matter of where that balance is. So free radicals are all around us, including our own metabolism produces them. Antioxidants are the good nutrients we get in the colorful fruits and vegetables that we all know we should be eating more of. And as our food sources are deteriorating in nutrient quality, as our diets have been deteriorated and our environment has become more toxic, it's no wonder why we're seeing so many health problems here in America. Studies have shown that antioxidants can cut your risk of heart disease by 70%, diabetes 40%, have a significant impact on lung cancer and breast cancer. In fact, there was a recent study just last year, I believe, out of Harvard University showing that carotenoid antioxidants can significantly reduce your risk of breast cancer. So, these are one of the things that, we've never been able to measure in a very convenient way until now. And so this is really what a cross-section of the cell here with your DNA inside, and this is outside the cell. And these carotenoid antioxidants and vitamin E and some other antioxidants are all laced within the cell membrane. The water-soluble ones are in the extracellular and intracellular matrix. And then you've got these carotenoids, which basically provide this shield or this protective mechanism to protect the phospholipid bilayer, which really controls a lot of the functions of the cell. When this phospholipid bilayer gets oxidized, the cells become dysfunctional, and that's really what leads to disease. And so carotenoids are really what protect this, and for the first time now, we can measure this level of protection in a very convenient way. And I think that we've gotten away from understanding the value of food in America. A lot of times we think that only drugs can really treat disease. In fact, there are laws that have been written to protect pharmaceutical interests to say that only drugs can treat disease, but we really know that food is really the best medicine for the body, and when we're not getting optimal nutrition, we know that we're setting ourselves up for a whole host of problems. And so Hippocrates believed that the human body has an innate ability for self-healing, and really nutrition is the fundamental molecules, so to speak, that are what drives the health and the mechanisms within the cell. And when we have deficiencies there and we're not optimizing, we're going to lead to issues. And so some people will say, well, hey, you can just get your nutrients from a healthy diet. Well, theoretically, yes, but the reality is the USDA did a study of 22,000 people, and nobody, got the minimum RDAs of 10 of the most essential nutrients. Nobody. And so this is a huge problem because our foods are grown. Boy, I went to the store the other day. I'm in Florida, and we're getting fresh peaches from Chile. I don't know how long they're sitting in warehouses for. We're in the Sunshine State with oranges on our license plates, and for some reason, we ship in our oranges from California. food is picked and it's sitting in warehouses for weeks sometimes before it gets to us. And these nutrients, not only are they not in the soil, but we have a lot of poor distribution techniques to get fresh food because it's not grown locally typically. So that led to about a little bit over 10 years ago, the JAMA reversed their decision and said that the average American diet is enough to prevent deficiency but not disease, and that low levels of antioxidants may increase your risk of several chronic diseases, and they recommend all adults take some type of multivitamin. So the question is for physicians that, I had this question is, which one should I take personally? Which one, should I recommend? And your patients have that same question. And whether or not you're recommending supplements to your patients, the CDC did a recent study that between 40 to 60% of your patients are already taking a supplement. And so which one do they take, and how do we know if it works? Do you want your patients going to GNC where there's a teenager telling them of what they should take, where their sales process is driven on products that are high margin and typically low quality and lots of marketing, or do you want to take some more control and guide your patients to take products that are safe and effective? An example of how bad this problem is, the Vitamin Shop, which many of your patients are buying supplements from, had a recall of their multivitamin line several years ago because they had lead contamination, so 10 times the upper limits of lead. So here you have patients that think they're taking something that's good for them, and because of the lack of quality control of most of these products that are out there, they're getting lead contamination. So they recall their product, and then 4 years later, they get nailed for lead contamination again because they never fix the fundamental quality control issue, because again, they're dealing with profit margins and so forth. So when we really look at things, the question is the only way we're going to know if something works is if we measure it. So we measure cholesterol, we measure bone density, we measure blood glucose, we measure things in the body. And when we can measure things, then we can get a baseline score of where somebody is, we can recommend a treatment protocol, and then we can follow up and see if that treatment is making a difference, and then we can monitor that process over time. So when we look at the biggest problem in healthcare, and the reason why we have these diseases is they're all metabolic diseases. They're related to diet and lifestyle, and the majority of them are preventable. So what ended up happening was the National Institute of Health was funded the development of a device to measure antioxidants and oxidative stress in the body, and a patent was filed by the University of Utah in 2001 for a device that could non-invasively measure these carotenoids in biological tissue to give diagnostic information such as cancer risk, and could also be a marker where conditions associated with carotenoids and other antioxidant compounds could be related. And then they said such early diagnostic information allows for the possibility of preventative intervention, and we could develop a know what these carotenoid levels are in the skin for risk of cancer, and if low levels are assessed, preventative steps can be taken, such as dietary supplements. So this is the original U.S. patent, which was filed by the University of Utah. Our company had nothing to do with it. This was, again, funded by the National Institute of Health. And then our company acquired the technology because we saw that there could be a great commercial application, that if we could take this device, which in 1999 was the size of a ping pong table. It was a huge device here. And our company said, boy, if we could commercialize this, put this in the hands of healthcare providers and make this a screening tool like these other biological measurements, then we can get people to focus on and empower physicians to focus on diet and lifestyle changes, because we can measure it for the first time, and then we can intervene with different recommendations and actually monitor that. So it took over $100 million, and the first generation unit for commercial applications came out in 2003, and the latest version came out a little bit over about 2 years ago, which is the third generation unit, and this is the one that's really been ready for mainstream. It's very easy to use, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And so we all understand the importance of antioxidants. The biophotonic scanner can measure that very accurately, and I'll go over some science about that. We can do it in 30 seconds completely non-invasively. So physicians are now using this as a routine screening tool, as a vital sign essentially, to test their patients. And what we're finding is we know people aren't eating healthy, but if we don't measure it, we can't really do much about it. We're finding after we've done 20 million scans worldwide, we've created the largest nutritional database in the world. We're finding about 9 out of 10 people are scoring suboptimal. And so what we do is we manufacture the highest quality supplements that are on the market. We are the first company to receive the ability to sponsor the U.S. Olympic team because of our quality control process. And PHARMANEX, the LifePak Nano, and another product that I'm going to talk about later are the only supplements on the market that have been proven and guaranteed to increase antioxidant levels in the body. They're also listed in the physician's desk reference and have a lot of substantiation and safety behind them. And by implementing this program, this generates revenue in testing fees, which is cash, as well as revenue in product recommendations. So much like a dermatologist generates income from recommending skincare, primary care physicians and other physicians can now integrate nutritional programs as a way of enhancing their practice. So over the years, when I first got involved about 12 years ago, Yale University had received a government grant to utilize this technology to study cancer. And just about last year, I think is when this got published. This was published by Yale University, their Cancer Center, the Center for Science and Public Interest in Washington, D.C. The USDA was involved with this, and then the University of Utah. So this was a 10-year published study showing that this technology, this biomarker, holds promise as both a health biomarker, is highly reproducible and valid, and that hopefully one day we can develop portable scanners to use in the field, and that this could be utilized as a predictive for chronic disease. They also said that one day we could commercialize this and make these devices more accessible to people so that they could be used for public health purposes in the future. Well, with the newest version of our device, the future is here today, and we have about 1,000 providers now utilizing this technology very successfully, and our goal is to integrate this into at least 50,000 providers in the United States and really make a huge difference in healthcare by empowering them to focus more on prevention. So what we're talking about is a way of really revolutionizing healthcare, again, fundamentally causing a paradigm shift away from just disease management, but now focusing on real prevention. What can we do to improve the way the body functions? Because unfortunately, we tend to describe health as the absence of disease, but we all know fundamentally that we lose our health far before the disease is diagnosed. So if we can focus on healthy people and keeping them healthy with nutritional intervention, we'll see much better outcomes. And then when we integrate nutritional intervention along with other therapies, we'll see better results with a lot of the conditions that we're seeing in healthcare. So many physicians now are believing that this is the next new biomarker in healthcare, and it's really addressing a $35+ billion market now in supplements that we can now actually provide a way to quantify what products work and don't work. We can give physicians safe and guaranteed solutions. And so here's the problem that physicians have, is that we're too busy to take a look at new things. We're either too busy to learn new things or even to take a look. And this was a kind of a cartoon I found that was kind of pretty funny. It basically has this this general here, fighting a battle with a sword, saying that, I don't have time to take a look at what you have because we've got a battle to fight, where this represents the physician. And, his compadre here says, hey, I think we should look at this new technology, this machine gun. It's a better way of fighting the battle. And I really believe the scanner is a machine gun type of approach to really address the health needs of so many patients, because we're finding that so many of them are not eating properly. And Dr. David Rosenberg has actually been utilizing the technology. He's been one of the pioneers in the field here. He also speaks educating physicians about this technology because he has such a passion for health and prevention, and he's seen such great results with his patients. He's got a great background here, one of the most respected physicians in our community, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about his background and share some of his experiences.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm David Rosenberg. I'm a family physician, board certified in family practice. For the last 25 years, I practice in Jupiter, Florida, just north of West Palm Beach. And I always uh, took it upon myself to appreciate prevention. Um, Over the last 25 years, this has just been reinforced. In the first 12 years of my practice, as I was building it, I saw a need for prevention more and more. And the reason for that is I think that the community out there has become more aware. Well, I had an opportunity to bring prevention into my practice. I did my own research because I knew that patients didn't have the guidance they needed. One of my colleagues, Dr. David Fell, brought this to my attention. After doing my due diligence, I decided to bring this in, and afterwards I actually got feedback that has opened up my eyes. I recently gave a talk at the corporate headquarters to a number of physicians and saw that the correlation of this skin carotenoid score with oxidative stress and illnesses that my patients were succumbing to was very much apparent. And now I'm using this as another vital sign. The benefits to my patients have been just another way to see how they're doing clinically. Um, I've become much more aware that chronic illnesses such as diabetes, cancer, and stroke are directly correlated to someone's level of oxidative stress. And my patients that have scored low over time are usually becoming to are getting to uh, obtain another crisis in their healthcare. And now I've got a marker that allows me to just give me a clue. It's a very sensitive test, but not specific. But that's okay. We have plenty of specific tests to do otherwise. But how about an early marker? And over the course of the last few years, I found that my patients have grasped this and are actually inquiring, how is their score doing? Why is their score going down? How can they get their score to improve? Well, I speak about nutrition, as Dr. Moore does, but we know that most people will not comply with a diet high in fruits and vegetables. And even if they do, the quality of the fruits and vegetables are not like they were years ago. So my patients have taken supplements, and most of them come in with a slew of supplements without any type of understanding of what they should be taking. They get their advice from someone who's a lot less educated than we are at a GNC type store. I then speak to them about how the nutrition will help them, and that with appropriate absorption, we can actually measure the difference. My patients have taken the PHARMANEX supplements. They've had excellent results. And their compliance rate has really impressed me. Most people don't stick with a lot of supplements that they're on because they can't see any difference. They don't know if it's working. Now we have a way, right, Dr. Moore, to find out and to give them the positive feedback necessary.
Yeah, it's a really exciting technology, David, and I commend you for being one of the early adopters of this technology. And we've got such a great opportunity here, to really make a difference in healthcare and not only help patients but also help providers. And I like to think of this as changing your oil in your body. We all understand the importance of changing the oil in your car. We don't wait till our engine starts smoking before we take our car to the dealership. We understand the importance of investing and changing our oil to keep our car running right, because it's much less expensive to change the oil than it is to change the engine. But yet, for some reason, in medicine, we tend to wait till things are starting to blow up before we start to intervene. And so this antioxidant test is really the equivalent of checking your oil, and it's a way to steer the patient towards a better path of health. So A little bit about the scanner and where it came from. It was invented at the University of Utah by these two scientists, developed at the Center for Biomedical Optics, completely independently of us. It's based off Raman spectroscopy, which is Nobel Prize winning science, and basically a certain frequency of light at 473 nanometers comes in through the skin, which is now being used through an LED technology. It hits these carotenoids in the skin, and then it scatters back a different frequency of 510 nanometers. And that intensity of that light coming back is picked up by the device and determines the concentration or the density of these carotenoids in the skin. Now, what's the significance of that? Well, it really plays a role in these carotenoid antioxidant levels in the entire body, and I'll go over some more of the science behind it. And so what we can do now for those patients that score low, we can recommend a product called LifePak Nano or another product called AgeLock Youth, which will both improve this antioxidant level within 60 days or their money back. What's great about LifePak Nano is it's fully comprehensive, so patients aren't opening up 5 or 10 different bottles. They're getting everything in a pack that's been studied to work synergistically together, and has been proven to provide this antioxidant protection as well as other protection in the body. So patients will get a baseline score at their first scan. We would prescribe the products for the patients that are low. In 8 weeks, we'll see a significant improvement, and then we'll typically take about 4 to 6 months to receive a full saturation level where they'll tend to plateau. And then over time, we want to monitor that. And I know that Dr. Rosenberg, as you've been monitoring your patients, you've also have noticed some of your patients' scores have dropped pretty abruptly for no reason. And maybe share with us a little bit about how that helped you improve the care that you deliver to your patients.
Well, I tell you, Stephen, the score never drops for no reason. There's always a reason, but it's up to us to find out. Several of my patients that are cancer patients had high scores, having been on supplementation. They developed a cancer, and these are cancers that have likely been started years before they started supplementation. But once I saw in retrospect that the score had dropped, and I looked and saw when we diagnosed them with their cancer, I could see a direct correlation. Then as I followed them, what I found out was a couple of things. First, those patients that had high scores that were undergoing treatment for their cancers had much easier recoveries. And speaking to some of my oncology colleagues, I found that the literature is rampant with confirmation that people who have high antioxidant scores recover from chemotherapy and radiation a lot easier. Then, one of my unfortunate patients actually had a relapse and a recurrence, or should I say a second cancer that developed. And what I saw was their score dipped again. I also saw that patients that were being treated for inflammatory processes like colitis or peptic ulcer disease, when I looked back at their history, right when they developed their symptoms, just before their score had dipped. So you can see a direct correlation of acute inflammatory disease processes and low carotenoid scores. And what I'm doing now is, I did this before, but when you see a score that's low and you cannot explain it, I just dig a little further to look for cause and effect. I've actually picked up 4 patients in their 40s with prostate cancers, and I did that. I start screening for prostate cancer at age 40 as opposed to 50, and I saw these 4 individuals had low scores, much lower than you would expect with their lifestyle, and lo and behold, all of them had occult disease.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is we find that people that are scoring less than 10,000, there's usually some high level of oxidative stress. Again, this is not diagnostic, but very sensitive to oxidative stress in the body. We typically see smokers are in this red zone, and unfortunately we also see children are typically in the red zone. So Boy, it's so great for to test children with their parents and really start to get that family on a better path to health. Average American is somewhere in the 20 to 25,000 range. And look at this, the average person using the LifePak Nano is 48,000. So we see significant improvements with the product. And then when we start to add some other products to them, if for patients that want to get higher than that, you know, they certainly can do that. I personally started at 31,000 thinking I was doing everything right. And obviously, when I started to focus on improving the score and the behavior that would do that, as well as switching supplements, my score has now, I've been as high as 86,000. So I routinely test over 70, usually over 80. And I know that I have a much better antioxidant protection, which is going to lead to better health over time for me and my family. So we talked a little bit about the role of nutritional science and antioxidant science, and really the third component to really addressing healthy aging is genetic science or epigenetic science, which is really the way the genes are functioning. So our environment can actually cause major changes in the way the genes functions, and we can now measure this genetic function in these chips that were invented to really do standard pharmacogenetics and other epigenetic testing. What we're doing is we're utilizing this chip to measure aging in the body based off a major database that we acquired from a company called LifeGen. So we have the exclusivity to this, the only database where they actually had a study where they had an outcome where youthfulness was preserved significantly and diseases were reduced by upwards of 90%. And we utilize this technology to map out what was actually happening from an epigenetic standpoint. So to give you an idea of how this works, and this is really the next new thing in nutritional development and in healthcare, is when you're young, your genes express themselves like this on the left. So red are active genes, and these green are less active genes. When you get older, these genes start to switch. These genes at the top turn on, and these genes turn off. And this is basically the epigenetic signature of aging in a part of the cell called the mitochondria. So what we did is we said, boy, can we screen for ingredients that have been thought to be good for energy production and mitochondrial function, and can we make these genes go back to a youthful expression? So you can see, ingredient 1 didn't really do anything. Ingredient 2 had somewhat of an effect. But if you look at ingredient number 4, you can see ingredient number 4 basically made these genes go back to this youthful expression. It's almost identical. We can reset 92% of the genes in the mitochondria. And then we've correlated that to functional studies with cognitive function and endurance as well in humans as well as in animal studies. So this really led to a big discovery that can we apply this research to the rest of the body and create a systemic product that can reset the genes that control aging in the entire body. And so this research led over the last 6 years to develop a product called ageLOC Youth, which is the first and only product that can target these genes associated with aging. It targets 6 major mechanisms of aging, from antioxidants to detoxification and cellular stress response to DNA protection and repair mechanisms, inflammatory balance, regeneration mechanisms, and regulating metabolism. So these are 6 of the major aging aggressors, so to speak, and they really control health related from cellular health to brain health, heart health, metabolic health, skin health, bone, joint, eyes, physical performance, and immune health. And so this product really now is addressing the genes that are controlling this for the entire body. And we've done some clinicals on this as well. This was a clinical done on inflammatory response looking at skin in humans. And we've shown that this product, after just 2 months versus a placebo, will significantly reduce inflammation in the body. So this top is without the product. You can see MED stands for minimal erythemal dose, which is the level of UV damage that's going to start causing redness and damage into the cells. And on the product, you saw no damage at all whatsoever compared to the control group. And as we started to increase that to 3 MEDs, 3 times the level of damage, we saw that we were able to reduce damage to these cells by upwards of about 70%. So not only is this showing that it has this tremendous skin benefits, but looking at the skin is a great way, a great marker for inflammatory balance and cellular protection for the entire body. We also did a clinical showing that it increases antioxidant levels significantly versus a placebo in just about 8 weeks. And we have another study, which I don't have here, on functional brain MRIs, where we can actually show a significant improvement in brain function versus a placebo in just 8 weeks. And that was a study done at the University of Utah. Those studies are all right now submitted for publication, and will get published shortly, so it's limited on what we can release right now. But let's move over to really what it takes to get started with the program. So this is a minimal investment of about $3,000. We're going to give you a bunch of our most popular products. We've actually updated this just recently to include some of the new age-lock youth product, and you'll get 600 scans as well included with the program. After that, it's only about $1 to do the test to your patients. It'll also include an iPad to operate the device. And so you get about $2,000 worth of product, and you get about $12,000 in value in the scans when you charge $20 for the scan. There's a maintenance of $209 on the device, which covers software updates, tech support, training. If it breaks, we send you out a new one. So you're not hit with any unexpected costs down the road. And when you enroll 6 new patients in a month on one of the supplements, they'll completely waive that maintenance fee. So many doctors will do this in a day or in a week, and so the only way you're really not going to get this waived is if you're not utilizing the technology in your practice. So it's a pretty easy thing to do. So as far as the income streams, there's really 2 income streams: from scan revenue as well as from product recommendations. So most doctors will charge between $10 to $30 for the test. So you figure it costs $1. It takes 30 seconds to do. It's part of a vital sign. And so you can immediately, if you're testing 10 patients a day, you're adding $50,000 a year to your practice in just cash. You don't have to submit this to insurance companies or any of that nonsense. This is just money that you collect during the office visit. And then when you recommend the LifePak therapy, every 100 patients on the protocol is about $30,000 to $35,000 a year of additional income. Now, this is mailbox money that's not affected by or driven by an office visit, which is nice. And so every patient that's on the protocol, you figure, is bringing in an extra $350 a year into your practice. So when you put just about 5% of your patient protocol on the program, you're looking at, in addition to the testing fees, another $45,000 to $90,000. And so, this could be a $100,000 plus cash revenue stream in your practice your first year. And so from a financial standpoint, there's a very quick ROI here. We'll also guarantee that this program works for you, and that guarantee is basically you use the program in your practice. Any of that initial package, those products that you weren't able to either sell or utilize, anything that's been unopened, you can return for a refund less a 10% restocking fee. The scanner can be returned at any time and without any penalty and any future obligations. And so we're really committed to just making this work for you, and we are incentivized for the long-term success of this in your practice. I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that are coming down into the future, and this is really a huge innovation in skincare. And I've never had much of an interest in skincare, but it's a huge market, and patients are very, very interested. Most patients are using some type of skincare, and we've discovered some very unique ways of delivering skincare because we've developed some ingredients that are very powerful at resetting the genes for aging in the skin. The challenge is that they're very unstable when you put them in a jar and in a serum, and they degrade over time. So we had to develop a whole new mechanism on how we can dispense these technologies. And so this is a new device that's going to be coming out fourth quarter of this year. We have some devices that are out here for demonstration purposes right now. But we developed a device that has 5 cartridges in there that will customize skincare and mix it fresh for what you need that day in your home. There's over 2,000 unique customized formulas. We've invested nearly $40 million now in this technology, multiple patents, and we've been able to eliminate the need for a lot of the harsh stabilizers and preservatives because this is completely hygienic because you never touch anything. So essentially what happens is you have these cartridges that go in the device, this device will automatically mix those cartridges and dispense it for what you need, and then this will be customized skincare for you and your patients. And from a revenue standpoint, let's say you have 200 patients that have enrolled in this program. That would generate about $100,000 a year of mailbox money to a physician practice with just 200 users of this device. You don't have to inventory anything. The products are shipped directly to your patients. They order through an app or a website, and they manage everything directly with the manufacturer. All you do is basically show them this device, and they purchase it, and then everything after that is just done automatically. So if skincare is something that's of interest to you, you can certainly position yourself for that coming in the future. So what we're going to now do is recommend that you reach out to the person that invited you onto this webinar and touch base with them and follow up with them. We are excited about where we're going with things and glad you guys have joined us. For those of you that want to stay on for maybe another 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to dive a little bit more into the science of PHARMANEX and the studies that are associated with what we talked about tonight. And so you guys are welcome to join us if you'd like to. So as we dive into here, when I started to look at this company, I wanted to make sure that who's really behind the curtain, so to speak. And so what I found with PHARMANEX is they had a much different startup. Their founders were the former director of chemistry over at Merck, which is Michael Chang. He invented Mevacor. Joe Chang, who's the current president, came from Wyeth. He invented Lodyne and Rapamune. And then Carl Djerassi invented the birth control pill. So these scientists' role in pharma was they were really doing drug discovery, looking at nature to figure out medicinal compounds that could be used for future medicines. And so they were experts in understanding natural medicine. And what they found is that the natural products work better than the drugs that were being made, but the drug companies won't develop anything naturally because you can't patent it, and so therefore they have no interest in developing it regardless of the data. So these scientists got frustrated. They left the drug industry in 1995, and they really, that was the reason why they started PHARMANEX, because when they looked at the nutraceutical industry, to them it was just a bunch of snake oil. Nobody was really applying the standards that they were used to in pharma. And so they really saw an opportunity to take their expertise in natural medicine and pharmaceutical development and really apply it to natural products. And so they built a team of scientists. Oops, hold on one second here. Of about 100 scientists now. They've just grown their team. They have PhDs in all different disciplines because not one or two people really have all the answers. So it really takes a team of scientists with different backgrounds really working together to understand what the consensus of science is. And so I remember before I'd have to read an article, and one article would tell me one thing, and then the next day I'd read an article that would contradict it. And so it's really confusing and time-wasting as physicians to try and figure all this out. And so what I liked about the PHARMANEX team is they had all these scientists that were going through all this literature and really seeing is what's cutting edge but not fringe science and what is really the consensus here, so that certain small studies aren't really shifting people's opinions on things. It's really looking at the bigger picture of science. And so they have major research facilities that they own and operate, which is very unique in the nutraceutical industry. Most companies just private label somebody else's products. And then what they were doing was they were in about 40,000 pharmacies. They were looking for a way to really expand their distribution, because if you've ever gone into a pharmacy like Walgreens or Rite Aid where they were marketing their products, the vitamin supplement aisle is cluttered, and with all the science that goes into their product, they were on the same shelf of the cheap, poor quality supplements. In fact, the GNC, Target, Walgreens, and Walmart, their supplements just got recalled because the New York Attorney General filed a cease and desist letter last year because they were selling earlier this year, I'm sorry, they were selling fraudulent products out there. So there are major quality control issues that are out there. And PHARMANEX said, boy, we really need a better way of getting our message out there, and they wanted to shift away from retail. Merck tried to buy them for $135 million in 1998, and a division of Monsanto tried to buy them. And what they decided was they really didn't want to go back to where they started. And so a direct sales company called Nu Skin Enterprises, which has typically a multi-level marketing platform for their products, was really looking to invest in their future innovation and research. And they ended up buying PHARMANEX for about $130 million. And what PHARMANEX liked about Nu Skin is they had independent contractors that could really explain the science of the products better than you could ever do in a retail location. So Nu Skin's been in business 31 years. They're a 5A1 rated, so that's basically equivalent to a perfect credit score. You know, they're operating in 54 markets. 90% of their sales are outside the U.S. Over $1 billion in assets. $60 million a year is invested in R&D. Most nutritional companies don't even do $60 million a year. So they're also publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker NUS. And what I liked about this is this gave me comfort that I knew that there was a company that I could trust, that was publicly traded, that would never embarrass me. And it really is what created an opportunity for physicians to get involved and for us to get involved in doing the business development side when this acquisition took place. So a little bit about the science of the scanner. We are measuring levels of antioxidants in the skin. Some of the research, one of the first studies in 2004, which was published in a peer-reviewed journal, compared it to blood serum, which was the previous gold standard, and it showed that the scanner is as accurate and more reliable than blood serum. The reason is we're measuring in skin, and skin's always much more stable than the blood's going to be, because the blood's always going to be changing based off what you eat. They also found that measuring carotenoids is actually a marker of total antioxidant levels, even though we're not measuring them directly. And the reason is when we looked at the antioxidant network, this was a third-party study published explaining this, that the carotenoids are really the first line of defense. All these other antioxidants will tend to regenerate each other, so they're all working together. Because they can regenerate, they're not very good markers of oxidative stress, but carotenoids are sacrificial. So when they get basically neutralized, they need to be replenished through your diet, and because of that, they become a very sensitive indicator of oxidative stress and overall antioxidant status in the body. What we know is that when the carotenoids tend to be high, the rest of the antioxidants tend to be high. Kind of like if you're going to war, if your foot soldiers are in place, the rest of your army tends to be protected as well. We also did studies looking at fruit and vegetable consumption. Again, these were all peer-reviewed, published studies showing that the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the better your scanner score is going to be. This is a pretty large study of 32,000 people. So we know that fruit and vegetable consumption plays a role in disease risk, and we can now measure that in the body. Body mass index, the more overweight you are, the worse your score is. This was a 250,000 subjects, so these are huge studies that we're able to do because we can collect huge amounts of data with this technology very, very quickly. We also looked at oxidative stress from smoking, so the more you smoke, the worse your score is going to be. So we can measure the damage from smoking in your body and hopefully get people to change. I've seen a lot of people quit smoking because when they've seen their score so low. We looked at a way of measuring oxidative stress in the urine, where you can actually measure the damage in your body from oxidation. And people that had higher scanner scores tend to have much less damage coming out through their urine. This is a standard test called methyldialanine. There was another study we did with urinary isoprostanes, which is another marker of oxidative stress, depending on if you're familiar with that or not. So then you published the data. This was just some of the foundational data. We then presented it to leading scientific symposiums all over the world, including the New York Academy of Sciences. And this technology has been widely accepted and is being used at major universities, from Texas Tech Medical School to New York University to studies over at the University of Chicago and so forth. Yale's used it. Stanford University has used it to study UV damage in the skin. So this is something that's been substantiated by the scientific community, and now it's only a matter of time before more and more physicians begin utilizing this. PHARMANEX was also the winner of the most innovative company in the entire United States for mid-cap companies by the American Business Awards, And this is the same award that Apple Computer took for innovation for large cap companies. So not very often that medical technologies get awarded this type of innovation. So we then got medical rights in 2006, and then myself and some other members of our team really saw that that's where the opportunity was for this technology, and it just took time before the technology started to really emerge and get to the point where it was very, very user friendly and could be used in physicians' practice very easily. So that's really the end of this. These are just some additional studies on cancer and so forth, but you know, I don't want to drag on this webinar. If you guys want some more science, we can certainly email you some information on some science. There are over 80 studies that have been peer-reviewed and published on this technology, and so you know, the opportunity to really launch this and utilize this to improve patient care and help physicians is really, really high. And our only rate-limiting step right now is really just more and more people knowing about it. So what I'm going to do here is attempt to unmute this call, and you know, we can take some questions if anybody has any questions at all whatsoever. In fact, if you have any questions, I think you can even chat here, shoot me over a question in your control panel here, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I know that many of you aren't logged into the audio side of things, so if you have any questions, again, just use the chat feature here and type up your question, and myself or Dr. Rosenberg will be happy to do that. So I'm seeing here that we've got somebody raising their hand. John, let's see if we can unmute you here. Okay,
Hello,
John.
sir. Hello, sir. John, Kissimmee, Florida. Great presentation. My question is, in the skin care, my fiance has an academy where she teaches etiquette, personal development, social grace, modeling and acting, and so forth, and she's always looking for skin care, and this would be awesome. Do you have to be a doctor to do this?
No, you don't. These are products that are over-the-counter nutrition and skincare. So this is something that doesn't require a medical license to dispense.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. And John, who invited you onto the call?
Paige.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, if you want to get with her, she can get you some more information on what we're doing in that arena.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anyone raising your hands or chatting here? You don't see anything. Maybe what we'll do is we'll unmute everybody and see if we can do it that way. So let's see. Anybody have any questions at all? I'm going to start to unmute everybody here. So.
Steve, this is Paige.
Yes, Paige, how are you?
Good. Since there's a lot of reps on the line, do you have the income performer, or can you go over a little bit of what, how much people would make if they place these scanners in doctors' offices?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up an income revenue sheet for physicians as well as for providers too. So let's say here that this office is testing, let's say 15 patients a day. And let's say that, I'm just going to put in some arbitrary numbers here. Let's say that 20% of those, or 3 patients of those 15, are going to take that doctor's recommendation. We'll say they're charging $20 for the test. Their investment is $3,100, and we'll build in an attrition rate of 80% here. just an arbitrary number. So there, based off this, this will calculate out the income for the physician, and if you're a rep, if you've got, it'll calculate out the income that you would make as well. So this doctor would be doing 300 tests a day, or I'm sorry, 300 tests a month. 60 patients would be enrolling on the supplements. After a year, they'd have about 500 patients on the supplements. That doctor would recoup their investment plus another $3,400. Month two, they're making almost $9,000. First month, they're making first year, they're making $164,000, and that's based off these projections here. And we can obviously play with these numbers. We have physicians that are doing that right now, and now with the new scanner, we're seeing more and more physicians get up and running a lot faster compared to the older devices. The reps will make between $600 to $1,000 for placing the device, and then you can make up to a 10% override on their gross volume. So what's nice about this is a way of physicians generating a residual income stream and the reps really generating another residual income stream with no caps at all whatsoever. So you never have to worry about anyone capping your income, raising your quotas, chopping your territories, all the micromanaging you, any of that kind of stuff. This is really an unlimited potential here. It's really, if it's want to do on the side part-time, or if it's something you want to eventually take more seriously. I personally know people that make several $1,000,000 a year doing this, and I know people that have made over $50 million in commissions distributing some of the other products. So we believe that what we're doing in healthcare is really going to significantly increase those levels of performance, because we're just going into a territory that just has so much more potential than we've ever been able to do before. And John, if you're on, so regarding that skincare device, so let's say somebody put out 200 of those skincare devices, let's just say as an example, that would generate about $400,000 a year of consumables. So that would generate $100,000 a year of mailbox money for that person that put out those 200 devices.
Sounds great.
And if you let's say you sign up a doctor, an account that puts 200 devices out there, you're making 10%. You're making $40,000 a year override off that.
Great. Great. Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, any other questions we have? Okay, for those of you that are in Florida, we do have an event coming up June 3rd and 4th. June 3rd will be really the general business overview, and then June 4th we have a breakout session specifically for the healthcare market that myself, Paige, and Dr. Rosenberg are hosting. So we would really invite you to attend that. There's no cost to attend the conference as our guest. Just let Paige or one of us know if you'd like to do that, and you can really get a much deeper understanding and meet a lot of other physicians. And then on June 9th to the 11th is our next national training that we're doing at the corporate headquarters, where we'll tour the facilities, learn about quality control, learn a lot about the science, how to explain it, how to talk to physicians about it, and then we'll do a full day of business training as well. So that'll be June 9th to the 11th, and everybody here is invited to go out there. I'll be attending that, and Dr. Rosenberg will be one of our guest speakers as well. So if there's no more questions, I want to thank you guys for being on here. Paige, thank you for inviting everybody on here and setting up this webinar. And Dr. Rosenberg, thank you for speaking as well. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.